Nice to meet you all. I'm very happy to be on and speaking today. I think that this is the next one, right? Okay. I'm learning. So basically, let's meet. My name is Ieva Tillere-Tilnere. I'm attorney at law. I've been in the profession for around 20 years, which is quite a lot, I get. And I'm quite loyal to my company currently. I've been for 10 years with KPMG. It's been a wonderful experience, actually. Surprised by myself how long I have stayed and intend to stay. And as I said to my teams and other people in KPMG, when I'm talking about how is life with us, I'm saying that still, after 10 years, on Sunday evening, I don't feel the fear of going to the work next day. I feel happy, excited, and I think that's the best thing about work, that you don't feel the next week coming on, and you feel engaged and you feel motivated to go to work. That's the theme today. So if we talk about KPMG as such, you would probably know the brand. It's one of the big fours. It's audit. It's old school, etc. So that's why I've actually produced those two photos of myself. So I think that's one in the green jacket. That's the typical KPMG corporate photo, where I'm using that in different events. And the second one is of me in Pāvilosta this summer. And the thing is that this year we were having a pitch for a client in Germany, where actually we decided that let's get rid of those photos, just produce something that speaks to our heart. And then each of our team members around the world, because we had like a global pitch, just submitted some photo where they're natural, where the way they are and the way they feel about the world. It's really funny and really interesting. Still, there were some corporate photos from Germany and etc. So KPMG is a big organization, quite with history. We are operating in 144 countries, lots of people around, lots of good practices, lots of established culture of how we do things, what we are, and how we operate. We have extended, obviously, the way we work, as we started as an auditors, accountancy firm, and now we are delivering any kind of consultations, basically, on every subject matter, including legal, which I'm representing now. And in Latvia, we're also growing rapidly. At the moment, we are around 300 people on board. So we just, on Monday, had our move to a new office because we didn't fit in anymore. And the old office was very old KPMG style. So that's shortly about what I am and what I'm standing for. What I will be talking about today is about share options, share-based incentives, employee shares, that kind of stuff, which we from time to time hear, and we hear it more and more. And sometimes I have a feeling that people don't get what it is, actually, how it operates, and what actually can be achieved with that. I think my story with share options started some 4 or 5 years ago, when I received a request for a proposal. Just can you please prepare legal documents to implement share options motivation scheme in our company? What started as a sort of drafting legal documents turned out to be a learning point for my team and the client, because what we discovered is that this way doesn't work, that you can't just produce some papers, you need to step back and design it and think about the design. So what I will be speaking today about, so what actually the share options are, or employee shares, what are those concepts in Latvia, how they operate, and what you can achieve with them if you do it your way and the way it suits your agenda and your company culture, etc. When it might be important, I think Kristaps talked about motivation a lot and different kinds of motivations, and I think this tool is both kind of carrot thing and kind of also a driver for some more of involvement and a more owner's mindset kind of, if you may, concepts you want to introduce in your company, you might want. Why to implement it? What are those reasons? those benefits of such a program, and last but not least, how to do it. How to do it so that you don't shoot in your leg, so that you achieve the target you are placing for that purpose. So how to do it successfully. And then a disclaimer, that's based on my experience over those 4 years of how we do things and how we help our clients. And I hope it works. And I'm very eager always to talk to our clients 2 or 3 years afterwards and ask, so was it fit for the purpose? Was it actually motivating? What happened? Did you change it somehow? So it's quite an interesting journey to talk to the clients. So just very shortly, this is legal stuff, but I think it's very important to understand that actually when we all are talking about those share options, share-based incentives, if we step back in Latvian reality, it's actually three concepts, legal concepts, legal tools, which are available. Actually, share options and employee shares is not a very new thing, actually. It became more of a buzz when the startup community wanted to make sure that those tools can be implemented also in SIAs, in limited liability companies. So we have 3 things. One thing is employee shares, which is not share option kind of at the core. It is a specific share category, which is very limited in what you can achieve with that. The employee share doesn't give any rights of voting. It doesn't allow you to sell or pledge or get any other benefit apart from dividend payment, which is kind of convenient in case you have a variable pay part and you want to pay it out based on the results and you want to pay it more tax effectively. That is the way or the instrument you may want to use. But that's basically just the carrot thing. As long as a person leaves the company, the person loses those shares, gives them back to the company, and that's it. So basically, this kind of rolling shares, which you can grant to your employees for the purpose of just linking the variable part to the profit of the company. So share options and share purchase rights, those are pretty similar. Number 2 is share options, which are possible in joint stock companies, and that is something that has been for some time already. And this is right. This is the right in some foreseeable future, after some vesting periods, some KPIs are being met. The employee or the management group team member can receive proper shares, basically proper shares, and become a minority shareholder in the company, which is might be very appealing in case the company intends for an IPO, and then the person can play around with the shares and have the feeling of actually getting benefit when and how the person wants. So that is share options. Relating to limited liability companies, there's also a similar kind of concept, which is called share purchase rights. Further on, I will call all those things options. But it gives the same concept. You have the right at some certain period in time to get those shares. In case of limited liability companies, obviously the IPO is not a first instance kind of carrot in future. In these situations, there should be some mechanisms how the employees have trust that at some point in time this whole thing will materialize in shares, and what would be the financial benefit and the actual benefit of being able to do something with those shares. So that's a bit tricky in case you don't go into the regulated markets. So you need to think of how to give that promise in a way that the employee trusts it and gets the desired motivation based on that fact. So I think I skipped my keynote, but if I'm looking at the slide, then I think that generally speaking, I'm always saying to the clients, if you want immediate variable pay part, go for the employee shares. It's easy to be done, just grant them, and you get the possibility of not not paying payroll taxes on the variable part of their pay. If you want to think about motivating, engaging, if you want this to work in future, some future substantial return in future and some milestone goal for the future, then let's talk about share options. Whether or not that's suitable for your company, whether or not that might work, and how this comes along with the culture and your HR plans for motivating people. So, and the share purchase rights regulation is a bit more flexible than the share options in joint stock companies. So there are kind of very many options of how to work around them without, by this granting. So when typically our clients come and talk to us, when typically clients think about it, obviously talent attraction and retention is one of the arguments, or one of the arguments why people start talking about it. So, and that's also very closely related to sort of, I want to get my people engaged. I want to get us, all of us, or at least the management team, to be on sort of a owner's mindset level, to be engaged, to be striving for the results the same way as me, as the shareholder, is doing. So therefore, I'm giving this promise that if we build this company to a certain level, achieve our common goals, then you will get a certain benefit. And that is how usually companies arrive to this idea of thinking about share option programs. Third category, I would say, is the sort of startup family, and we in KPMG call them emerging giants. So those are the companies who don't have so much cash at the moment to pay like a decent pay. Therefore, they opt for this future benefit in future. When we grow the company, you will get substantial amount of shareholding. You will be on board with us, and we're building this company together. That's the concept they're selling to their employees to mitigate the probably the market level salary, fixed salary at the moment. There are industry specifics, like Google and stuff, and people I think from technology sector are those who are usually saying we need to attract the people, but what they say, they want share options when they come to us. Sort of, it's already a basic package. Give me the share options or shares. That's what Google is doing, or some other employees are doing. Sort of technology is one industry where it's relevant. Probably there might be some more as this gets rolling, and it gets rolling actually. And not, again, and this is like probably not the nicest motivator for the companies, but it happens that competitors already do it, and it's sort of, again, probably industry related, that my competitors also in our local markets are doing it, and then when people are coming and trying to be onboarded, they sort of expect that to be a like normal base. What is also important if the company has strategic goals, and that is also then easier to actually to provide the motivation in terms of the system. If the company has like 5-year plans of some sort of exit, which gives a very straightforward plan for the management team. Let's boost it up, let's build it up, let's increase the enterprise value so that we can all together sell it off for a very, very nice pay. That is one item when management and shareholders are thinking how to motivate for a short run, but very, very effective run, the management teams. IPO is another story. Again, we need to make our company better, and we need to make it as compliant as possible. We need to increase the value, and we need to be able to nicely go into the regulated markets. And then you would have those shares, which would be yours, and you can sell them in the stock exchange and benefit from them. So, and last but not least, also tax considerations. Some companies in Latvia start with that one, which I think is not probably the best motivator for thinking about the system. If the share options and the employee shares are granted correctly, there are certain requirements which you need to comply with, then there are tax effects, and the tax effects or sort of no tax effect. First of all, for if you receive dividend, then there's no payroll. And in granting those share options, if they are granted and the program registered with State Revenue Service, then the granting as such would not count as the gift or some benefit to the employees, so it wouldn't be subject to payroll. The only tax consideration for the employees, which of course needs to be explained, is in case they sell, and when they sell those shares which they get as a result of share options, then they would pay corporate capital gains tax. So because they get them for zero and they are selling for $1 million, so basically $1 million would be taxable base for this payment or receivable. And this is sort of a very brief visualization where we compare why we would go for employee shares or the share options, which is the sort of a short-term and long-term perspective. What is important and what companies and our clients usually do, they combine those things. They think about how to give the employee shares now and provide the dividend payments already, and then how to think about this future gain and future motivation with the help of share options. And so last but probably not least is how. This is going back to my story at the very beginning, that it's not about legal documents, it's about design. And what we learned and how we do it, we say to our clients, let's sit down and have some workshops. We know what are the most important questions, and we know how we need to go through them and understand. Ideally, if there's HR person online in the team, not only the stakeholders who are passing the decision, because it's always a sort of a balanced thing about what you want to achieve, how you want to motivate people, and how you don't want to restrict yourself. And the stakeholders are the decision makers at the end of the day, and sometimes it's very much about balancing, and then HR perspective and the motivation perspective should always be there back up. No, this is too much, and if we give something like that, that's a waste, because basically no motivation arrives from that. Everyone knows, okay, nice to have, okay. Never will materialize, nothing changes. So we start with the design. Step two, what in case, especially if it's a huge motivation system, we advise to actually verify it. So with the help of focus groups, with the help of some of key, for example, if it's management group, then a few members to whom we explain the system, to explain what would be happening, what is the idea, and see reaction and have a feel of it. Some feedbacks on that, some questions, so that it can be a bit modified to get it to the point and to where we want to arrive. And then this is step 3, which was the first step for my client at that time, which is implementation and drafting those documents and get it just implemented. As a sort of closing note, I think the main lessons learned during this period, and what is important in any case from the employees, and especially if it's management, they're smart people. They know what's happening. So if you talk about any promise so that it's actually tangible, you need to have a very transparent dividend policy. You need to have profitable enterprise which pays out dividends. Otherwise, it's like worth nothing. So also the amount of the dividends to be distributed in future should be enough motivated and realistic, so that you can promise something that you would be paying out. There should be a promise, but you can't break the promise, otherwise it doesn't matter. So that doesn't help or even harms the whole thing. So you need to very carefully plan what are the expected revenues and how you might distribute them, and make we lawyers say a vague but still a promise that would be paid. And this whole system, as I was saying previously, the HR should sit there and always try to balance it out, so that the motivation which you want to achieve by this is not lost somewhere. this is, again, on the other side, there is a balance not to hinder the operations, the governance of the company, and the future plans of the company. Because basically, if there would be a vast majority of new shareholders, you need to think about whether or not, to what extent those rights are granted, whether or not to limit them, and if you're limiting them, then again, the other side, whether or not that would be motivating, or they would be just second-hand or second-level shareholders without proper involvement. So I think, yeah, those are the main keynotes, and